Andy Burnham has given evidence, and Sadiq Khan is giving evidence at the COVID enquiry at the moment, and he said that he thinks the second lockdown could have been avoided with better planning, or rather, what he suggests is better contact with the mayor's office. And indeed, he says that he didn't know about the seriousness of COVID until it was too late. He hadn't been kept in the loop, he wasn't informed, and he says that many lives have been lost because of improper planning. He talks about the 20,000 Londoners who lost their lives because of the pandemic, poor process, poor judgment, poor decision making. Absolutely. But the reality is that those people who were listening to what was going on in China should have known and would have known that there were serious rumours and stories of a virus partly being tested in the Wuhan laboratories. Whether this was released by intent or by accident, or whether indeed it was a natural occurrence, there is no disputing the fact that attempts were being made to engineer viruses in order to test the drugs which were being produced to help combat things like the common cold and flu. And I don't want to get into any of the sort of conspiracy ideas about the possibility that this was some sort of weaponized virus. But nobody can doubt the fact that the virus was already well advanced by the time the Western newspapers were alerted to it in early January. We knew about this virus in June or July. And unfortunately, as ordinary individuals, we couldn't do very much about it or to protect ourselves from it, and the newspapers weren't covering it. But it was known, and it was being talked about, and we have to make sure, if there's anything that the COVID inquiry should be doing, it's not whether the mayor feels aggrieved that he wasn't involved in the discussions at the highest level. He should have been, of course. But what we can do better next time, because there will be a next time. And it doesn't matter whether the next time is an engineered virus or a naturally occurring catastrophe. There will be a next time. And it may be even more devastating than this last time. And we need to be prepared. And the COVID inquiry is there to ensure that we are better prepared, that we have supplies of PPE, that we have the right medical staff to hand, that the medical staff are listened to and advice is taken. And we have to find a way to cut through the bureaucratic hierarchies to get to the best practice and the soundest truth. And by not listening to anybody but the inner circle, we don't do that. With social media, we should be in a position to look at a range of views. And I find it extraordinary that this wasn't done, and that the government seems to have adopted a blinkered command and control structure, hiding behind scientific advice, or hiding behind the illusion of scientific advice. If we are to judge the reports from last week, the scientists weren't listened to. There's a lot we can learn by looking at history with hindsight, but we shouldn't take some of the statements which are being made too seriously. A lot of the interviews which are being observed are interviews desperately trying to rejig history, desperately trying to either put people into a position of authority or blame people. At the moment, I think Matt Hancock is the highest on the blame game, and followed quickly by Boris Johnson. And you have to look at the reality and say, well, Matt Hancock is not only out of the party, he's out of office as well. Boris Johnson is out of Parliament, but he's still part of the Conservative family. So, of course, Matt Hancock comes in for a lot of denigration. Does he deserve that? Oh, yes, he does. Yes, but you've got to try and get beneath that carapace of frustration that he didn't play cricket in the according to the rules. No, he didn't. But he hadn't been doing that for a long time. So the Conservative Party was just the last casualty in his advance for self-importance.